10 branches, but the share of information was the highest one. But the tone is positively related, but it has got the excellent tone in that. Among the 7 foreign banks, the study revealed that 4 banks has more than board consists of 10 to 15 members, and 3 banks have board consist of 8 to 10 members. By 71.3%, and the background material to the board members before a board meeting is given by a few members, very less of the majority of the banks give it. Only 43% of the banks provide any training on corporate governance to the board of directors. It is not justified by others. All example, banks have audit committee and nomination committee, and only 4 banks have remuneration committee. The non-recommendations, some of the recommendations are made as the non-compliance of any mandatory requirement should be highlighted in the section of corporate governance and board of the bank. The point of properly committee is raising the standards of corporate governance. Board of banks will have lines of responsibility and controlled by RBI. They should be held responsible for depositors, employees, creditors, because all the stakeholders are an important part of the bank. To bring more transparency, the foreign banks should disclose all material information, including the succession plans, which is not disclosed, and the shareholder patterns, again, in addition to disclosure, which are required to be made as per mandatory requirements we have. Third, how it is sanctioning the loans, defaults, recovery, investments, donations, and compensation. The maturity patterns of loans is one of the important things which is disclosed now, but still the recovery and all is not disclosed. Board appointments should be made by the government on the recommendation of the appointed board. And disclosure of senior management compensation and qualification, which has, according to my study, was the least one. Conclusion. Coming to the conclusion, the disclosure norms forms the core of the corporate governance in banking industry. It affects the valuation of banks and ultimately the customers. Significant changes in corporate governance mechanism, especially for the foreign banks, is need to be made by RBI as well as by the government. Due to the rapid changing environment and the globalization, banks must implement some corporate governance practices, hard corporate governance practices. Only the well-governed foreign banks will be able to survive, and it's the point of sustainability. So we can say here, RBI, SEBI, foreign banks, and other governing bodies will have to come together and make international banking sector corporate governance a journey to success in India. Thank you.
Sharma, the University of Delhi. The title of the paper is Time for a Multilateral Framework for Competition Law.
Yes, this is here. My topic is, it's regarding the competition law. I think very few people, persons present here will be knowing about exactly what competition law is. In US, it's called antitrust law. In Sherman Act and Clayton and the Robinson-Patman Act. So, I will be coming over this, the definition part also briefly. And this is the scheme of my presentation. I will briefly discuss what the competition policy and law is. Then I will see what's the relation between competition policy and sustainable development. Then how regulating competition and how regulating anti-competitive practices will help sustainable development. And then I will talk about how globally how the globalization of competition law has taken place. Then I will look towards the present institutions which can present a framework for multilateral competition law. And then I will show my analysis what can be further done as far as regarding development of a multilateral international treaty on competition law aspect is concerned. Enterprises in an open market economy or real estate. The US is a very developed jurisdiction and European Union is also very developed jurisdiction as far as competition law is concerned. And basically there are 3 types of anti-competitive practices as far as, you know, as in India also Competition Act has been amended in only 2002, and the contemporary, there are discussions regarding the adoption of national competition policy. There was a draft a few months back, and those discussions are going on. So basic thing is the competition law covers 3 types of practices. It's talk about anti-competitive agreements, it talks about abuse of dominant position in the market, and it talks about regulating mergers. so that those mergers don't give to something dominance which can be manipulated by the company, which can harm consumers, which can be harmful for the real economic development for everybody. In other perspective, the competition policy is something which infuses competition in the economy. These can be set of policies related to IPRs, foreign direct investment. This can be liberalized trade policy. This can be many forms in which the government can infuse competition in the market. So, together competition law and policy, because infusing competition and checking anti-competitive practices. This is the the environment which is in which the MNCs and local enterprises also work. So, as I will be talking more about international perspective. So, WTO, earlier there were discussions regarding the adoption of a multilateral framework on competition policy and law point. As you all be knowing about such framework in GATS, in TRIPS, under WTO agreement, for IPR as it is TRIPS. So there were negotiations for competition policy aspect also, but those negotiations were not fruitful earlier, and those were dropped in 2003.
These are the categories where FI used to invest their money: pension fund, mutual fund, investment trust, insurance, banks, endowments, industry funds, foundations. It is generally argued that we can attribute the rise and fall of stock market to the flow of funds and investment made by FIs, and we often hear the terms that FI fuel the market run. However, we wish to point out that the FIs flows are likely to make the Indian stock market more attractive to DIIs, domestic institutional investors, and mutual funds. It is felt that impact of FI is so high that whenever the FI tend to withdraw the money from the market, the domestic investors also follow the suit. But these are all untested hypotheses. My objective of paper is basically, Indian stock market has been visited by three major players: mutual funds, DIIs, and of course FIs. This paper lays on the analytical framework for comparing the nature and role of the three players. It uses a framework for empirically testing the impact of each player on the Indian stock market. Through a set of Granger causality tests, it verifies the popular hypothesis that FIs dominate the Indian stock market. These are the studies which we have taken to our studies, like Lakshmi Sharma in 2005, Kulwant Rai and Bhanumurthy, S.S. Kumar, Thanmuji and Manish Kumar. Here, these all studies basically talk about only one aspect: volatility. None about Sensex volume, Nifty turnover, Nifty volume. And also, none of the studies talk about the other two important institutional instruments or segments, DIIs and mutual funds. The external literature broadly supports a view that FI in the Indian stock market, investor has the perception that whenever the market goes up, it is because FI buying the stock. And whenever the market goes down, FI sell the stock. But our thoughts are different. It is not only the FIs who run the Indian stock market. FIs have impact on the stock market, everyone knows. DIIs do not have any impact on the stock market, and mutual funds do not have any impact on the Indian stock market. Our data set consists of monthly investment of gross purchases and gross sales made by FIs, mutual funds and DIIs in the Indian stock market. That is obtained from the various sources of websites from April 2007 to March 2010. The other variables we have taken here is Sensex, Sensex turnover, Sensex volume, Nifty, Nifty turnover and Nifty volume. We have added two more variables to the above data set. We have created log Sensex and log Nifty. In their different form, they represent the returns on Sensex and return on Nifty. Now
it drives the stock market. There is an implicit one-way causality. It means that it is flowing from the FIs to the stock market. And precisely to verify this hypothesis, we have used Granger causality, because the structure of the Granger causality test is one where there is reversibility. And in the first step, one variable is the dependent variable, and then in the next step it becomes the independent variable. So inherently in the Granger causality test, you have a biway causality built into it. So essentially when we another thing, this is one thing about methodology. The other thing is about the rationale of the study. The rationale of the study, and especially when we want to look at it from the ethical angle, and because here in this conference we are talking about ethics and so on, the ethical angle is this, that it is one thing to take advantage of volatility in a market and to get short-term gains, which is what any secondary market operator would do. But it is yet another thing to actually create volatility in the market, okay, and make that a source of earnings. And if both things are being done simultaneously, then there appears to be a design in the nature of the and the role of the FIS. So that's exactly what we are trying to test through this correlation, but we are not reporting those results over here. We've tested for the time series properties, we've tested for unit roots, and all of our variables as we have constructed them turn out to be I1s. They are non-stationary, and then because they are non-stationary, we've converted them into the difference series, and this basically is the structure of the range of causality. As you would easily notice, there is this kind of irreversibility that I have been talking about. This is our unit root test, and so as I said, the argument basically is that FIs come for short-term return, and if so, they would be equally interested in causing volatility, without which they cannot hope to get back such return. So considering this, we have developed a table in which we have plotted the direction of the causality, and as you would notice, FII by is one of the, and as we said that we have considered a large number of variables over here. There is 6 variables over here, and their relationship with another 8 variables. So in all, this constitutes a matrix of about 48, causality coefficients. What we see over here is that FII by has got bi-way causality with Nifty, and so it is the only coefficient which is indicating this kind of behavior, which is that FI is leading to is creating some kind of volatility or impact on the market, and in turn it is also gaining through that. In all other cases, we do find some causal relationships, but most of everywhere else you will find that the relationship is one way. And actually, when we go down the ladder, then what we see is that as far as mutual funds and DIs are concerned, these relationships are also weakening. So what we can say over here is, out of all the possible 48 cases, actually there is just one single case where this kind of endogeneity is being created. So we cannot, but the conclusion does not, we cannot escape the conclusion that it is due to some kind of a strategy or a design where FIIs behave in such a manner where they play with the market, whip up the volatility, and try to gain out of it. So without going into all of these details, I would say therefore that we started off by trying to investigate whether there was any difference in the role and the nature of these three institutional investors. And what we find as a unmistakable conclusion is that, with the exception, the dubious distinction of the FIs which have got this bi-way causality, the other two segments do not, and they have only one-way causality. It's only FIs who influence the stock market in, within quotes, in I would put it in inverted commas, and DIs, although DIs and in another sense also, we are addressing our title which says that do FIs drive the Indian stock market, then one of the answers to that is that it's not just FIs, but there are other entities also, and their influence is also there. So on the whole, I would like to say that it is a very pointed kind of a inquiry which we are looking at, and some of the negative features are well known, that because of this, like Amit said in the beginning, that this kind of negative influence that is there would lead to all kinds of herding behavior by other segments as well, and also even the common investors. So not only is there a direct impact on the stock market, but they would also have these indirect impacts on the rest of the players, entities in the stock market. So in conclusion, what we can say is that domestic investors purchase stocks because they want the growth of the country, and that's why DIs are influenced by Nifty and log of Nifty. Sensex turnover is also shown to have an impact on DI buys. This shows that the above results that the log, Sensex and Nifty influence DI to sell their stocks. Mutual funds also have some impact on the stock market. Bulk buying of stocks by the mutual funds show that the investors are investing their money in the stock market, and that's why mutual funds have a positive impact on the total stock turnover. So in conclusion, the Indian stock market has all these three institutional players, these institutional investors, and through this analytical framework we are comparing the role and nature, and essentially what evolves out of this is that FIIs tend to be opportunistic agents who are causing some fundamental change in the market, and this is done with an ulterior motive to get some short-term gains. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Professor Dharam Sharma from Stockholm, and he'll be talking about foreign market entry mode strategies, market seeking, and client following.
Merchant capital, industrial capital, and finance capital. And we did talk about cartels and banking of East India Company as a monopolistic attitude towards the colonial government. Then one more thing I wanted to ask you was that you talked about anti-competitive practices. How do you think that in India, with Walmart coming in, and with other kind of, it could go ahead. So what is the solution for that? You did talk about that, but
when Walmart will be coming in
do
India,
you think the common man, culturally, do you think that Walmart can go down deeply to the whole of India, the aggregate of India as a whole?
I think that
I'm not trying to make a case out that it's anti-Walmart or anti-foreign direct. I'm not trying to get it. Similarly, in the Indian market and the Chinese market, and then do you think we really the whole holistically?
When we talk about competition law and cultural issues, I won't deal with how Walmart take up cultural issues. But of course, if Walmart comes in India and is going to do business here, then it will be regulated by the Competition Act here in India. So as you might be knowing, if it goes in cartelization or other types of conduct, like cement cartels were fined about 770 crores by Competition Commission of India a few months back. LPG cylinder cartels were also penalized. So if that company is now indulging in such sort of activities, now after 2002 and specifically after 2009, when the law came into force, now of course you have specific law and a specific body, the Competition Commission of India, which is working really good and penalizing wrongdoers. If you are indulging in some anti-competitive conduct, if the cement companies cartelized, they raise the prices. It was brought into the notice of the commission, and they paid this penalty.
If we are a politically corrupt nation, if we are that way, then
you can't stop corruption, because it's all about mindset and it's all in mind. There are so many factors coming in when corruption comes. It all starts from education.
One question. Recently, just few days back, all airlines in India has raised the airfares as the traffic and the tourism is coming. So even the international fares of some airlines are the lower than the domestic fare within the country. So how our competition commission is working and this so
As I told you, like it started real functioning in 2009 only. It's still a growing body. It has got teeth and it has started using them. But it will take some time. The things will come up in front of it, then it will analyze the things and then will take decision. This thing came up and they are, I think, analyzing this thing.
okay, thank you. Any question from Ms. Darshan Bankar by any other listener?
May I ask a question?
Yeah. There is Dr. Darshan, multinational enterprises and cultural differences. And any question relating
I
to
want to
that?
ask just one thing, this failure of the American dream. Now, what the role of banks in America, and how would you answer to that? What kind of the dream did they float, and the failure we are witnessing, even the effects, the after effects. So many Indians staying in America, and
Madam, her lecture was on
banking.
cultural difference.
Cultural
Bankage
differences.
Manvi.
That was Manvi.
All these stakeholders which were face the problem because of the Lehman Brothers, which just crashed and all in this subprime crisis and all. After that, the Indian banks were above the safety level. The capital adequacy norms and all, we are all above the safety norms. But still, we want the especially the multinationals, to be as well compiled with the compliance with these norms as well, so that such things don't happen in India.
No, how did it happen there? I'm wondering. You are so well advanced, everything is in place, they are well aware of the situation, and then the thing happened.
Madam, in India, government takes care of the capital adequacy. What a wonderful country it is.
Which is not done by the US and other countries.
You see, this is the situation.
Sorry. Okay.
Next, my question is with Saket, if you are finished.
Yes.
Okay. Saket, tell me one thing. I am a layman, I consume Pepsi, I consume Coke. What is happening? Every time the prices are raised by them and the prices are similar. Otherwise, they appear to be competitors. Where is the competition commission? And the same story is many other beverages, other things also. This is happening in India. And we are just left in the lurch. As a consumer, suffer.
It's not always the case. And the issue of cartelization comes when you said that two companies are raising prices. And of course,
One followed by the other, not together.
yeah, this happens, and if it comes into
So
the
the competition commission doesn't have to cannot take up these things so moto. It is much more
It
intelligent
can,
than
it
a
can,
layman.
it can take.
Why should it wait for a layman to come through them?
It can take these things so moto, but as I already told, the commission started functioning in 2009 and 10.
That's not an ask.
No, but it has taken some issues so moto, which have broad ramifications, like cement cartels case, like LPG cylinders case. It has taken some more broad issues. It will be coming into those deeper issues when it started really functioning well.
It's not something which is superficial or deeper issue. It is right there. Every day, every time we have ads and everything going up. And Coke and Pepsi prices are the same.
Okay, the discussions are never ending.
I got your point, but the thing is, the basic thing like LPG and cement.
Same is going to happen. There is also tomorrow.
One question to you, sir. This
So moto. And of course, complaints can be
by individuals or?
Okay, we're short of time, so I'd like to thank all our speakers today.
MC Sharma to express word of thanks.
Honorable Chairperson, Professor Francis Ledo, and all the paper presenters for sparing their valuable time and sharing their immense knowledge with us. And we also hope that in future also we will continue to have our associations in the coming time. And I'm also thankful to all the listeners and the participants for raising questions and making it more live and interactive. Okay, thank you to all.
Thank you.
Gandhi also, Nehru and Gandhi. This is what I was
India has forgotten that.
No, because that is the memento they're giving on Gandhi.
The best person.
I think this was made.
No. I was just trying to comment on the person, what he stood for economically. His views were, yeah. वो लिखने पढ़ने वाला है मैंने बोल दिया मैं लाती हूँ
photograph with you. I have photograph with you.
पहले पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप होते हैं भाई देखो सरकार और जापान के पहले पार्टनरशिप होती है फिर जापान पर आ जाता है वही हिसाब है प्राइवेट पर आ
Is it possible that I assist you on that? I'm very into that BP case. I heard a lot about it.
On bankruptcy, at the same time provide the main drawbacks and provide a new resolution for a default process, or rather a more sustainable bankruptcy procedure. So here is the outline of my presentation. First of all, I provide you with a brief introduction to the topic of bankruptcy and the main motivations behind the research work and the main drawbacks that we found. Following which, I present you with the main research objectives and a new approach to default resolution. And in the last slide, I would conclude. So let's see the resolution of financial distress. Once the company defaults, that means it fails to meet its creditor payments. Once in default, the first step is that company tries to negotiate with its creditors. If the creditors agree, then this is out of court settlement. So that means your private negotiation. However, still the company might fail, and this would lead to bankruptcy. Within bankruptcy, a firm has limited number of options. It can be liquidated or it can be reorganized. Liquidation is piecemeal asset liquidation, where the assets are sold, proceeds are collected and distributed among the various claimants. And reorganization is the reorganization of the debt structure within the bankruptcy process. So we all know what is bankruptcy, but what happens during bankruptcy? In bankruptcy, creditors have priority over the shareholders' claim. So that is called the absolute priority rule. So creditors are paid before any amount goes to the shareholders, and shareholders are the residual claimants. And most of the time we see they end up getting nothing. If a firm wants to survive bankruptcy, it has to negotiate, and especially with the creditors that are the funding part, how they finance the firm. And with that, the control or the governance can change as well, because now they can take the major decisions of the corporation.
Previous literature in bankruptcy have established the supremacy of common law countries over the civil law countries, especially the French civil law countries. LLSV studied the rights of creditors under bankruptcy for 49 countries representing 4 different legal origins: common law, French civil law, German law, and Scandinavian civil law.